Now let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show this Sunday. This is the last Sunday of July. I don't like July, always full of rains. But there's a different kind of rain that makes me a little bit sober this Sunday. In the next 45 minutes or thereabout, we'll be talking about it. And what is it that makes me not excited this Sunday? Now you know that on this program we did 3 stories on the central bank governor, the suspended central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Those 3 parts were not ennobling for him. We never ever endorsed his activities while he was in the Apex Bank. But this Sunday, there's a big but. We are returning to Emefiele. We are returning to Emefiele on 2 grounds. The first ground, his subsequent arrest after he was suspended and is remaining in custody longer than the Constitution provides, until he had to go to court to seek to enforce his fundamental human rights. Issue number 1. Issue number 2, there was a show of national shame in Ikoyi last week, right in the court premises, where there was a fisticuff between 2 institutions over who will have custody of the same Emefiele. Moral, institutional matters and legal matters. And have with me this Sunday afternoon a gentleman who is interested in the morality of institutions, the law that guides us, processes that lead to either conviction or to being freed. Barrister Ameh Ameh. Ameh, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Are we not shaking across the Niger?
Well, that's a great one. It will bring us together.
Now, I told you that I'm a little bit sober.
I did hear you.
I'm sober because Emefiele, after he was suspended by the president, Ahmed Tinubu, for some investigations over financial matters in the Apex Bank, which investigation we do not know the outcome yet, he was picked up by the DSS. And he remained in the DSS detention until he had to go to court to enforce his fundamental human rights. I just want to ask a simple question. Did the DSS, as institution of the state, need to wait for the citizen to tell it, you are flouting the law, give me my freedom?
All right. The DSS is a creation of the National Security Agencies Act. When you look at, it's an 8-section act, and if you look at the sections of the National Security Agencies Act, I'll just like to make reference to the wordings of sections 1 and 2, where it has to do with the DSS.
He said they shall, for the effective conduct of national security, be established the following national security agencies. That is to say, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the National Intelligence Agency, the State Security Service. And in section 2, subsection 3, it makes clear the functions of the SSS, which we call the DSS.
Yes.
The State Security Service shall be charged with responsibility for A, the prevention and detection within Nigeria of any crime against the internal security of Nigeria. B, the protection and preservation of non-military classified matters concerning the internal security of Nigeria. And C, such other responsibilities affecting internal security within Nigeria as the National Assembly or the president, as the case may be, may deem necessary. And 4, the provisions of subsections 1, 2, and 3 of this section shall have effect, notwithstanding the provisions of any other law to the contrary or any matter therein mentioned. Then in section 5, it talks about classified matters and made reference to section 9 of the Official Secrets Act of Nigeria. The DSS, no doubt, has got wide powers from the wordings of this law. Anything that suggests an infraction on the internal security of Nigeria, they are to not only to go, not only to go attackful, but to prevent. That's wide powers. And how do you define preventing, detecting, stopping, averting? That's a wide area. It suggests to me that sometimes they may even, when necessary, they may even have to interfere with the operations of some other agencies, maybe like the regular police or some other, maybe the civil defense too, that have to do with the internal workings of our internal security. So they've got wide powers, there's no doubt about that. Well, I've not seen all the details or certified copies of documents that have been exchanged between parties in the courts. But I don't think that the DSS needs to wait for a public outcry or maybe a specific order of court giving them a specific number of days or time frame within which to bring an action against the suspended CBN.
Now let me tell you why I'm asking this question. I hope you don't mind.
Go ahead.
State institutions are also supposed to place a value on the citizen, and therefore their conduct will depict that value. Not even when the law specifies that you cannot hold a Nigerian in custody beyond this period without taking him before the court.
That's right. Our actions, especially those who occupy public offices, be you a senior public officer or a junior public officer, you must be a good representation of what Nigeria represents and stands for. But whether that is what we have today, that's discussion for another day. But Section 35 of the Constitution makes it very clear in subsection 1. Every person shall be entitled to his personal liberty, and no person shall be deprived of such liberty, save in the following cases and in accordance with a procedure permitted by law. I will take subsection 1C, which is an area of interest for the purposes of this
conversation.
For the purpose of bringing him before a court in execution of the order of a court, or upon reasonable suspicion of his having committed a criminal offense, or to such extent as may be reasonably necessary to prevent his committing a criminal offense. So, on the one hand, he is committed, you believe he has committed an offense, you bring him before to justice. On the second hand, he is about to commit, you prevent and bring him. Then there is the subsection 3 of that section again, says any person who is arrested or detained shall be informed in writing within 24 hours and in a language that he understands of the facts and grounds for his arrest or detention. In subsection 5, it says in subsection 4 of this section, the expression of a reasonable time means in the case of an arrest or detention in a place where there is a court of competent jurisdiction, within 24 hours that man should be brought to court. Where there is no court, and if it is longer than, I guess, about how many kilometers radius now, maximum within 48 hours. But again, I need to add, now from my experience as a legal practitioner, many of our prosecuting agencies usually would have obtained or usually would get an ex parte order to allow them curtail the liberty of a Nigerian beyond the limits to enable or to help their investigation.
Let me draw attention to the history a little bit of this detention. Before Ameh was arrested after his suspension, this same DSS had gone to court seeking an order, a permission to arrest him. And the court said no. By his position, he has a principle the weight of the allegations you are bringing forward should be known to his principal, and the court turned down that order.
Again, the details of what happened in court, I don't have all the details at my fingertips. But the question again is, did they need, in the circumstances, did they need that order? Of course, we do know the law is settled. You need a warrant of arrest if you must curtail the liberty, because it's called fundamental rights in Chapter 4 of our Constitution. It means these rights are so valuable that the Constitution, which is our grown norm, protects it for every Nigerian. So if you must arrest, I want to believe, I'm not a voice for the DSS or even for Emefiele, I want to believe the DSS must have acted on a document or something before going ahead to effect arrest on the suspended CBN. I want to believe. But if it wasn't so, on what basis? I want to believe there must be something, because in the DSA, that's a very sensitive office for information, and they've got lawyers there, experienced people, intelligent lawyers. So
very well trained.
I want to believe they must have acted on the document.
You know why I'm getting a little bit uncomfortable? Because I'm raising the matter of institutional culture and the value such institutions place on me. We are discussing Emefiele this afternoon because he used to be the governor of the central bank. And at that level, we cannot judge but discuss him. But if an Almajiri, a Nigerian citizen, don't forget, if a market woman, if a village man, if a cyclist or a motorcyclist trading he's plying his trade is picked up on such weighty suspicion of maybe causing major harm to the Nigerian state, and he has no money or nobody to speak for him, because if Emefiele went to court, he has the means, and the media like us can begin to discuss him. But those ordinary Nigerians don't have the means. They are not visible. Just in case DSA decide that, look, I don't like the face of this lowly Nigerian who cannot go to court to enforce his fundamental human rights. Will our liberties not be shredded on the whims of an institution? And by the way, what I'm saying doesn't apply to DSS alone. It happens with the police. It happens with other agencies with coercive capacity.
You see, our public institutions are expected to conduct themselves in the best of behavior or character. You don't allow your personal feelings or idiosyncrasies to affect the way you carry out your public duties. You should do it without any form of sentiment. Emefiele, we're talking about him because he's as we say in Africa, a very big fish.
He's a big fish, a big man.
A golden fish has got no hiding place. He's a very big fish. These things happen virtually every day in this country. There are so many people who are in our correctional facilities today awaiting trial. But whoever it is, no Nigerian is more important than the other. We're all Nigerians. God, from time to time, lifts us up, gives us privileged positions, and we must appreciate God for that. But what I must say in these circumstances, would the DSS descend so low, or any of our public or security agents descend so low as to look at somebody in the face and say, oh, because I do not like you, I should treat you this way or that way? I don't think that should be.
Or even servicing an interest that's not visible to me, not known to me.
Well, that is another thing to be proved, to be sure.
You are a lawyer. There are big men in Nigeria who would point at, this man insulted me yesterday. He dared insult me. And that ordinary Nigerian goes behind the bars for weeks. That's what I'm discussing this afternoon.
I always say to Nigerians that I meet, for example, I can be a lawyer to everybody, But I do pro bono cases. And I believe so many of my colleagues do pro bono cases. No Nigerian should sit somewhere and say, I cannot afford the services of a lawyer. That's why we've got the Legal Aid Council. You can go there. Government will provide a lawyer for you to assist you. So nobody should see. I always tell people, get a lawyer. Enforce your rights if you need to.
I may get a lawyer. Let me just paint a scenario for us. You have a gate man, who may in fact not have heard about a knocking about it. And because you're a big man, you came in, maybe your dog poo-pooed in the wrong place, and you asked, where is Mr. X? Where were you when this dog poo-pooed? So. You are irresponsible. This boy, you're embarrassing me before my friends. Officer. And the man shaking is taken away. And you, the big man, you forget him for as long as it pleases you. It happens.
Oh, sure, it happens.
What do we do with this kind of institutional absence of civility, absence of placing value on the Nigerian, everyday Nigerian?
See, there has to be a lot of orientation and reorientation. Something pains me so much about who we are. I meet with all kinds of people as a lawyer. I go about businesses, both in the high areas and the low areas. I don't think we really have respect and regard for ourselves as Nigerians. We need to change this culture. We must learn to respect ourselves. In other climes, in civilized climes, you don't just curtail the liberty. It's difficult. Today, even in our country today, people find a way to impute into civil transactions some criminal elements just because they think they've got money or connection to deprive somebody of his liberty. We must begin to reorient ourselves.
I think the institutions have a big role to play.
Yeah, they have a big role to play. So we, to that regard, of course, you can't change human beings, individuals, the big man, the low person. But what I would say is that don't die in silence. If you're thrown into prison, you can enforce your rights. Bring an action against the aforesaid institution, the prosecuting, the police, whether the DSS or the ICPC or any of the EFCC. Bring an action, enforce your rights. Every day, week in, week out, month in, month, people go to court, get heavy damages against general damages against public institutions, the IG of the police. We have so many of such cases. We read from the Court of Appeal, from the Supreme Court. So people should not keep quiet. To be quiet is to allow impunity to reign.
Let's push to another dimension of this, because we need to manage time because of the issues we are treating. This country, it was awash in the media with DSS saying that Ameh was being investigated for terrorism financing. I did a 15-minute story on it. Information was shoved within the media space, connecting Ameh political ambitions to some terrorist interests, and the monies moved in and moved out. And we verily believed that if the central bank governor, in trying to execute his political ambition, had got himself in a mess with the wrong security sources who have turned out to be anti-state, he should pay for it. So, if DSS was investigating Ameh for terrorism finance, and don't forget that United Arab Emirates had given Nigeria a list of certified individual Nigerians who were neck deep into financing terrorism in Nigeria. Let me paint a gory picture. Terrorism financing means those giving out money and other resources to criminal terrorists to keep beheading us, and to keep bombing us, and to keep burning our villages, and undermining the Nigerian state. United Arab Emirates gave us list. Now Emefiele was fingered by the DSS to also be making such very unconscionable moves. But when DSS eventually got hold of Emefiele, they charged him with an offense of owning a den gun, and most likely some gunpowder. And you're a lawyer. Were you upset?
Now, the allegation of terrorism financing is a very weighty one. Do you know the number of women that have been turned widows overnight in this country as a result of terrorism?
Nigerian troops killed.
Nigerian troops, gallant officers wasted, beheaded, their children, wives raped, barracks even attacked by these terror elements. The list is endless. So, for a highly revered institution like the DSS to come out and say or even suggest such a thing, for me, it will be very to think that they don't have some evidence, no matter how slight. Again, I'm not taking any side. I'm only saying that is it possible for such a sensitive institution of government, saddled with the responsibility of making sure that our internal security is intact, they just make that kind of comment? Well, he who asserts, the law says must prove. So if they have asserted, they should prove it.
They have not gone to court with that allegation. That's the point I'm taking you to. They told us. Is it late? So okay, so they want to begin with Dengon first.
So, from the information I have, or the information at my disposal, I don't want to jump into conclusion. Can we give the DSS some time?
Okay.
Let's observe the DSS and see.
Okay.
What are they going to come for? Of course, Emefiele has got the best of lawyers, learned silks, and among the best of lawyers. I'm sure if at the end of the day, in any way, his rights have been infringed on, I'm sure he's not going to let that go. He's going to make sure that he seeks redress.
In fact, we give him some hope, really, because he said, look, DSS is not a frivolous institution. It doesn't go throwing words up and down. For it to have made that witty comment, there must be something. And let's wait.
Because defaming the character of a man occupying such a high office, do you know what that could attract in court if he shows that his character was actually defamed, or there was a libelous publication or something?
No, I want to believe that, maybe.
And no government institution of that level will want to attract, the wrath of the court, getting damages against it. When you get a pay.
Okay.
Damages.
Well, you're watching the Signature Show on the IIT. That's we are talking Emefiele and the law. We take a break and return shortly. Please stay with us. Well, you are welcome back, and we're still conversing with Ameh Ameh. Ameh Ameh is a lawyer. He's based here in Abuja with us. He has not just interest, he has a passion for institutional behavior in respect of the law and legal practice. He's also very particular about protecting the fundamental rights of the citizen, because he says it's the basis for citizenship in the first instance. Let's welcome you back to the second segment of this conversation. Emefiele is in court. Pardon my trying to reduce what's my sound to trivialize what is a serious problem. He is charged with an offense of possession of firearms and ammunition. I do not want to query whether that is terrorism financing, but by and large, it's an offense. The second part of this conversation is on what transpired in the Koi court last week. After his lordship had granted Emefiele, by the way, it was the DSS that took him to court. In other words, the DSS had said, look, we are now taking this matter to be adjudicated on by a competent court. We are submitting ourselves to the ruling of the court. And His Lordship ruled that, look, DSS, you have a prosecutory authority on this matter. But as a citizen, this offense permits of a bail. So I grant him bail in the sum of 20 million naira and a surety in like sum. Seize his travel documents, his passports, and then put him in the correctional center in Ikoyi. But what transpired, as we are conversing, I will show us what transpired. What transpired seemed to me, please correct me because I'm a layman, I'm not learned. What transpired seemed to me that the DSS was not immediately satisfied with the order of the court. Because the court says, correctional center, take him away. Court, keep his passport. If he perfects his bail conditions, DSS, keep prosecuting him. But DSS wanted him back with them, instead of he being detained where the court had ordered that should be detained. The correctional center officials also wanted to keep him as ordered by the court. And the two institutions reduced Nigeria to a laughingstock, where the DSS, with their guns striding over their chests, and the prison officials were struggling over who will keep Ameh Ameh. Was that law? Was that respect and obedience to the court order? Just please educate me.
All right, very quickly, thank you. Before I comment on that, on the issue of possession of firearms.
Yes.
Well, like we know, Q and SATs must prove. No law stops you from getting a firearm for self-defense. But of course, you are expected to obtain a license if you must be in possession of such firearm. So it's an allegation. It's left to be proved by the DSS that he was in possession of any form of firearm. And it's left to them to also show that he did have a license to have such firearms or firearm in his
possession. So I just want to quickly say that by the sides before I respond to it. Of course, I've watched the clips of what transpired at Ikoyi some days back. No court will embrace you. No court will give you a voice or a place when you disobey the orders of that court. No court, no judge will take that from you. Of course, it is called contempt of court, whether in facie or ex facie. In facie, before the court, ex facie, out of the court. So there's no court that will hug you or welcome you. In fact, most times they will tell you, until you obey the court order, do not come back to me. You will get no favors from the court. That's what I'm trying to say. So if the court has directed that A, B, C be done, why should you do X, Y, Z? That's clear disobedience. Do we need any lawyer to know that? It's clear disobedience.
Let me tell you why I'm asking, because we don't know. We're laymen. We're not learned. Because maybe I don't know. The DSS may have had reason not to allow him to move out of this place, of that place.
Sure,
They may
and whether
know
the
that
reasons are justifiable or not is another thing.
I want to ask, should the DSS really not have taken his lordship into confidence? Because it is possible that if Emefiele left that place, he might go to the detention correctional center and detonate a nuclear bomb. and that the DSS had that information. That is worst case scenario. Is it not expected in institutional civility and conduct that the DSS should have confided in his lordship to say, look, we have this information? Would that not be legally acceptable?
If the information I have is correct, the DSS did not file a counter affidavit, did not file a formal counter affidavit against the application for bail filed by the lawyers to the suspended CBN governor. My lord allowed them to argue orally against the application for bail. Again, I don't want to say so much on that because I don't have all of the details, but from what I read, they argued against the bail orally. My lord, in his wisdom, said, no, this man is entitled to bail. Of course, if you're granting a man bail, there are conditions you will give us, rule out as a judge. Even when the offense is such that it's a capital offense, for example, armed robbery or murder, like we say in the North, an offense that is not bailable ordinarily. A judge may see reasons. If you meet up certain requirements, he may see reasons and say, okay, well, of course, I can give this bail on these conditions. Some are outrightly not even bailable. But for whatever it comes under, the judge in his wisdom sits in the court and says, okay, I'm going to give this man bail on XYZ conditions. The judge must have seen the justice of that application before granting such a bail to the person brought before him. So why should any Nigerian or anybody disobey the orders of the court? So it is left now to the lawyers, to the suspended CBN governor, to take the right step in the right direction. No court will smile at you for disobeying their orders. And taking it further, if you said maybe they could have taken the judge into confidence and all that. If you have, because of the nature
of the work of the DSS, there are certain classified information they cannot just let out in the public.
Not even to his lordship.
Unfortunately, there are certain information they can't let out. For example, if they have some classified information, I'm just thinking, yes. I'm not a spokesperson for the DSS. But for example, if they have some classified information
that they can't just put in a counter affidavit before the court, what do you expect them to do? Now, because that counter affidavit, and it becomes a public document once it is filed, anybody can apply for a certified copy of it and get it. But if they are classified information, you can be denied a certified copy of such a document. That is my understanding of the position of the law, NSA Act, the Official Secrets Act. So in that situation, there are ways these institutions can go to court, can approach the court, can give information to his lordship to help sustain our national internal security. So that is what I think. Of course, a lot of things may not have been done perfectly well. I don't know the information at the disposal of the DSS. I don't know what they're acting on. I want to just believe
until the contrary is shown me in court or by way of documentary evidence that the DSS is not acting in the interest of Nigeria and Nigeria.
Let us not dwell solely on the DSS. Let us look at the conduct of the Correctional Center officials. The court had given an order. They wanted to obey it, but there was an interference. Don't they have any other processes through which they could complain to his lordship that a sister institution was undermining the order of the court instead of reducing the court into a wrestling arena?
Of course, in a civilized society, things should be done in the proper manner. In the proper manner, I repeat it. What we saw, the clips we saw, sincerely, if you ask me, it was just a national embarrassment. Especially for this new government, this relatively new government of Nigeria. that has told you and I, or promised us, is renewed hope, together in hope. That means His Excellency the President of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his Vice President have put themselves in the shoes of the common man to say, together, we are together in this, together in hope, a renewed hope. And Nigerians are very expectant
of great things to come out of this new administration. But the actions of these two agencies, I must say that don't speak well at all for a government that has just come in, assured you and I, reassured us that we have got hope. So I think that the presidency should investigate this, or the Office of the National Security Advisor should investigate what really happened. The orders of my Lord were very clear. He should be remanded in the correctional facility at Ikoyi. The DSS had got no business taking Emefiele away. For reasons best known to the DSS, they struggled and wrestled with the correctional facilities officials to take Emefiele away. But there are decent ways of going about it. If you ask me, I think that the prison officials shouldn't have wrestled, because I saw one of them, he was so manhandled, his buttons pulled out, he was so humiliated, thrown out, and then he struggled to go in again. It was so embarrassing. I think there's a decent way that they would have gone about that. It's not right at all. I think that the officers involved in this show of shame should be punished. But the relevant is they should be punished. They shouldn't get away with it, because it was really embarrassing to the image, or the new image that this administration is trying to create for this country going forward. I don't think that was good at all. It was a big minus for our public life and the public administration. I think the officers should be punished for that.
There are two dimensions which are extra legal that worry us in the media. Some bits and pieces of information are being put into the public space to the effect that that show of fisticuff was because there was anticipation of pecuniary benefits, especially to the correctional center, where warehousing a big man means warehousing an automated teller machine. There are also those who said that Emefiele's stay in the DSS custody has availed the DSS two things. One is the same pecuniary reward that the prison officials, the correctional center officials are fighting over, because each institution that holds a big man has access to the vote. But there's the second worrying insinuation, not fact, and that is that interests outside legal have come to play, where those interests know where it serves them better to keep Emefiele, either with DSS or with the correctional center. Will you be worried that of the likelihood of extra legal considerations getting into the performance of our institutions? Purely extra legal. In fact, extrajudicial.
The statement you made, I also want to address the minds of Nigerians since I have this opportunity. We are now beginning to think, or we now think, that once somebody occupies a high office, seemingly or otherwise, it's tantamount to being wealthy. I want to disabuse the minds of Nigerians. How are we sure that the Emefiele is not just getting the salaries alone? Don't forget, this man was MD Zenith Bank, one of the leading banks in this country. It's believed to be the leading bank in Nigeria today. He was MD. From his salaries and perks of office alone, should he be poor? Now, as CBN governor, with his salaries, if he was taking only his salaries, this kind of assumed wealthy man that we think the wealth we think he possesses, I mean, will it be so? So I think that Nigerians should stop thinking in that way. where you think because somebody is CBN governor or he's a DGSSS, he's a accountant general, he's tantamount or synonymous to being wealthy or that he steals. We should begin to disabuse their minds about this.
Or those who occupy those positions should help us to think differently. Because when a man who occupies such a position shows you conspicuous capacity to consume,
what if he made
opulence,
his wealth? What if he made his wealth before being appointed? We have people in Nigeria who made their wealth. Of course, the code of conduct bureau will tell us about that because they have all this information about public office holders. Before it's possible, even a judge of the federation could have been a private practitioner who made so much money in billions before being appointed as a judge before being appointed as a judicial officer. So I think we should begin to change our mindset about the way we perceive our public officer. That's why I'm not saying that people don't steal money or people are not corrupt. Of course, that we know it's a pain in Nigeria today. But coming back to the issue of the CBN governor and whatever it is that our public officers do, where depending on where the person is remanded, whether in the DSS custody, ordinarily, where somebody comes before a court, the proper place for the person to be remanded or his liberty to be curtailed is our correctional facilities. It is not something fun. It's something that is the order of the day that the DSC will keep somebody in their own detention facility ad infinitum. That's not what is proper to be done. You are expected to charge somebody to court. The person is heard, and the court directs what happens further. So in this situation, I must say, well, these are statements in the public space, but it is left to be shown. If you think that you have anything to show that public officers in the correctional facility or DSS who are benefiting from a big man, so to speak, come out and let the Nigerian state know there are avenues through which you can channel such information, and actions, I believe, will be taken by the relevant agencies. But assuming it is true, that tells you how low we've descended. That people that should keep custody of somebody are now looking at pecuniary gains or what they can benefit financially or monetarily from that keeping that person. I don't want to think that such things are happening. I don't want to think they are happening in our institutions. People should be contented with what they earn, either in the private sector or the public sector. You know, what differentiates the man who steals from the other man who is disciplined is just the factor of contentment. That is what differentiates us. Are you contented with the 100,000 you make as salary? Do you cut your coat, like they say, according to your clock and live within your means? That's what we should be telling ourselves in Nigeria. Are you living within your means? No matter. And then our public officers should also show us that the man who is a gardener somewhere, who is diligent in his work, should be respected as the man who is in the high public office. Reward everybody. Make them feel equal. And that everybody is contributing to the growth and to a better Nigeria. I think these are the perceptions we should have.
Well, even as we regret the exit of Aminu Kano, regret the exit of Tafawa Balewa, who are gentlemen who were contented with life and who were contented with service. Do you think that Emefiele is paying for his political sin in the error he made over the currency change?
Well, it depends on what you call political sins. It depends. It's a wide area too for discourse. But whichever side you look at it, it is said in our African, one of our adages is that if you don't want to be stained, if you don't want water to touch your clothes, then don't go close
to the river.
For me, if you ask me, if you're preparing for public office in Nigeria, in today's Nigeria, be ready for the good and the bad. Anything can happen to you. You say the truth, like who say, you say the truth, you are killed. You don't say the truth, you are killed.
So I say the truth.
Be known for something. Be known for something. And if you ask for my advice, I'll advise that be known for integrity and truth. No matter whose ox is God. Stand by what you believe in. Stick your neck out for it. No matter what price you're going to pay. Don't remember our great icon of blessed memory, Nelson Mandela of South Africa. Don't forget him. He stood for what he believed in. He fought for the stoppage of appetite. He stood for his people. He was ready to die for his people. But the Almighty God, in his own
spared his life.
You're not going to die. I will allow you to lead your people for 4 years. He came out of all that trouble, all the pain he went through, and he led his people for 4 years and handed over to another brother. Today he's long gone physically, but he's celebrated worldwide, Nobel laureate. What is it? I'm not sure that Nelson Mandela stole money from his country. But the name and reputation he has, the goodwill he has today, I'm sure that it will unlock any door for his family members or children. It will unlock any door. And I say to Nigerians today, if I must say this, I must say to Nigerians, let's stop thinking money, acquisition of wealth and all that. Let's think service to Nigerians. When you have the privilege, serve Nigerians. And this makes me remember our own dear mother, late Dora Akunyili. Let your good work speak for you. The Bible will also say, for me as a Christian, the Bible says that a good name is better than riches, than silver and gold. Let Nigerians, fellow Nigerians, let's begin to think on living good name, good legacies for our generations unborn. Let's not think money. Money is not everything. Or what use is money you have and you don't have a good name, you don't have peace. Let's live within our means. And again, I'll say this. When you get into public office, don't forget that it's a transient position. It's ephemeral. You're not going to be there forever. You will step down someday, either by the time the Constitution gives to you or the Enabling Act, or someday your tenure. Your appointer will not be there forever. He leaves, you leave. Remember, you go back to meet your people, fellow Nigerians. And the people are the greatest judges we have today. Not just the courts, the people. Because people can subvert justice. You can have a corrupt judge that even subvert justice. But the people will judge you. They will tell who you really are.
The people will tell who you really are. And I'm sure many Nigerians look forward to having a civil, disciplined, considerate DSS, disciplined, very well organized, considerate correctional center. Nobody wants to be seen our public institutions tearing their shirts to shreds in the public and now providing material for international news agencies and television networks to deride Nigeria. I understand that higher authorities are probing that incident. Can it be the beginning of a change? In the past 45 minutes, these are the issues we're interrogating. Ameh, first strand, is going to court for possessing firearms when all of us were looking forward to his day in court to answer for his terrorism financing. It may yet come, who knows? And then the scuffle between two institutions of state. Signs of the times, or how low have gone. You've heard from my guest, Ameh Ameh, who's a lawyer based in Abuja, a gentleman interested in institutional discipline conduct as they affect legal practice, with particular focus on the fundamental human rights of Nigerians and the worth of the citizen. Ameh, thank you very much for coming to the conversation.
Thank you again, sir, for having me.
You know that the conversation never ends. Week after week, we converse with you, and then my name never changes. It remains Mwabuoze Njoko. Good afternoon.